The Boy Scouts National Council made a monumental decision today. They voted to end their ban on gay youth scouts. Joining me with the reaction to this is a local Eagle Scout who was brave enough to come out, but then he was kicked out of his troop. We welcome Chance Kawar. Welcome to Primetime.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so honored for you to be on Primetime, and you're so brave. And I just think,
I'm very excited to be here.
Geez, you're just creating new paths. I love it. You know, history in the making. So let's talk about your situation and your experience with the Scouts, and then we'll talk about how you feel about this what they passed today.
Okay.
So back to, tell us how old you were when you got involved and what you experienced.
Yeah, so I joined Cub Scouts when I was in first grade, and I've been actively involved since then. I crossed over into Boy Scouts in 2006, and I earned my Eagle Scout badge in January 2012. And so it's been an incredible journey for me, and I love going on campouts. I love the campfire stories, the tying knots, everything. So, and
you learn a lot.
I've learned a lot, and I made so many friends along the way, which has been great.
And during this time, did you know you were gay, or are you just too young to know it? Because a lot of times people don't even think about sexuality, and then maybe some people do. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first time I kind of realized it was when I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. But at that point, I made a decision that I wanted to continue to be a part of Scouts, so that wasn't something I could share with anyone.
Did you feel comfortable enough to share that with your parents?
Eventually, I was at a point where I could share that with my parents, but I knew that certainly I couldn't share it with my friends or anyone in Scouts.
What were you afraid of?
I was afraid of losing the privilege of being a part of an organization that I loved and that I had been a part of for so long. Because I had invested so much in Scouts, and you know, I respected the adult leaders and my friends who were a part of the organization. I just couldn't imagine not being a part of it.
You felt so connected to that, and as a boy, it's so important. You learn so many great lessons and have so many great experiences within the Scouts organization.
Absolutely.
Okay, but tell me your fear. You're going to lose this connection, but why? What was the fear that you would lose it? Talk about that. Because you were gay, like what would their fear be? Okay, so what? You're gay. You know, how does that affect them?
Yeah, I think that for me, the policy confused me. I didn't understand what was different between me and the Scout sitting next to me who was straight. You know, we both loved camping. We both had a certain number of merit badges. You know, we both went to troop meetings every Tuesday night. So to me, it was fear mixed with confusion, because I wanted so much to continue to be a part of the program that it didn't make sense to me why I wouldn't be allowed to if I was open and honest with myself.
And now that we're talking, what do you think? Because a lot of people's fear of gays or whatever, it's all fear-based, right? What do you think they're fearful of having gays in the organization? For any organization, what do you think that is all about?
I think fear is often derived from ignorance, and so.
Thank you.
I think my message to people is that, you know, you've seen me as a Scout. A lot of the people in my troop have seen me as a Scout. They know I'm a good Scout. I got my Eagle Scout, and I feel I've earned the respect and trust of a lot of people. And I don't think that my sexuality has any bearing on my merits as a Scout. And so hopefully, they're able to see through their fear and realize that this policy needs to be ended, not just for youth, but also for adults.
Yeah, because it just was intended for youth, but not for the adults. Okay, we have more to talk about, but we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. We're going to come back with this fascinating young man. We'll be right back. All right, the Boy Scouts National Council made a monumental decision today. They voted to end their ban on gay youth scouts, only youth. And joining me now with his reaction to this is our local Eagle Scout who was brave enough to come out and was kicked out of the troop, and now he's here on Primetime, so we're going to come back to him, Chance Kawar. So before we went to break, we talked about how the organization and them not wanting gays is all fear-based.
Right.
Talk about what are those fears you think they have?
I think some of the fears are that maybe there's going to be some kind of sexual activity that's going to spawn out of this decision. But the reality is sexual activity of any kind is not tolerated in Scouting, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual. And so the National Council has put in place very strict policies to prevent any kind of abuse or sexual activity that might occur, and I think we should look to those policies to protect our youth and not try to put a label on someone that they're going to be someone who they're really not.
It's so ridiculous, isn't it? Okay, well, let me ask you this. They only allow the youth, gay youth, why not the adults? What is your thought on that?
I think that there is a fear, again, within the organization that adults are somehow predators or molesters, but I think if you look
and some are, and to be honest, that has happened.
That is true, but I think if you look at the statistics, straight adults are just as likely to be predators as gay adults. So I think to try to put a label on someone is not fair, and maybe we should look at the individual.
We would call that a pedophile, and they could be straight, they could be gay,
yeah.
It doesn't matter, right?
So let's ban pedophiles
and
not gay
ban
adults.
pedophiles.
That's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah, me too, me too. Let me ask you a question. If they approved youth gays in the organization while you were still able to be, if it was earlier and you were still able to be a scout, would you have changed your mind? Would you go back?
You know, I'd love to rejoin the organization, but I have to admit that I'd be hesitant knowing that I was going to eventually be kicked out because of who I was. And so for me, I'm at a point in my life where I need to be open and honest about who I am. And I don't think I could lie about that again. So it would be a tough decision for me to make whether to rejoin the organization knowing that I would be kicked out in the future.
It's so funny because this organization that made you feel so connected and it made you enjoy your childhood and you learned so much as a boy,
right,
now made you feel like you didn't belong, like you were an outcast, a black sheep.
Yeah, and it's weird because sexuality has nothing to do with what scouting is really about at its heart. You know, we're about being trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. So
you just described the perfect man to me.
Yeah.
Or the perfect son. And you are very polite. You're the most polite young man I have ever met.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So this was such a brave act for you to, you know, come out and then get kicked out. And you knew by coming out there was a good chance that you would get kicked out.
I was prepared.
How did that feel to you?
You know, I had thought a lot about before I published my article in the Union Tribune what the consequences would be. And so I knew that there was a very good chance that people in my troop would read it and find out. And indeed, my scoutmaster sent out an email to the troop announcing that I was no longer welcome at meetings a few days after my article published.
Did that hurt? It had to hurt.
It did hurt, and in part because I felt like I had earned the trust and respect of leaders in my troop. But I understand that he was carrying out national policy as he interpreted it, and I don't blame him for that, and I respect his decision. But it certainly hurt to be kicked out.
Well, how do you feel now? You must feel liberated. But tell us how you feel now, because I see a strong young man with, you know, sky's the limit for your future.
Yeah, I think the news today that gay youth are going to be allowed to join is very exciting. It shows that we're starting a dialogue about this, which is a really important topic to discuss. And I'm incredibly proud of my organization for doing that. And I think that it shows that we can make positive changes and move in the right direction. And so for me, even though I won't be able to rejoin the organization, I'll still be fighting for membership equality in Scouts, and I still love the organization. I've put so much time and effort and energy into it that I'm not going to forget the memories and skills that I learned. Before you leave, I'd like to know what your goals are. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? In 5 years, hopefully I'll graduate at college, and I'm looking perhaps to pursue a degree in political science. But we'll see where that takes me. Well, I'm sure whatever you put your mind to, you're going to do it. Again, you have one message you'd like to tell our viewers before we sign off? Be brave. It's one of the tenets of the Scout Law, and it's what the National Council did today in their decision. And it's an important one. And you have followed that. You are a brave man. Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor to meet you. Thank you.